Good evening. We'll call the meeting of the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee to order for Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. Are there any potential conflicts of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, citizens' comment. Any citizens' comment? Citizens' comment. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. Minutes of the December 17th, 2019 meeting, the monthly position control report, and bills and payroll. Motion to approve by Rebecca, second by Tom. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item number, there's no items removed. Item number 6, request to recommend approval of the contract renewal with LifeQuest for ambulance billing and collection services, presented by Ron Allman, Finance Director.
Thank you. In front of you, you've got a memo outlining our current arrangement with LifeQuest as our ambulance billing provider. As you can see, or you probably recall, in 2017, we signed a 3-year contract, effectively outsourcing what had been 1.5 FTEs in-house. It expires May 2020. We kind of wanted to get the ball rolling here in case the finance or council wanted to go out for an RFP. Our recommendation, and we have Scott Owen here and Amy Van Wy that work with it also, our recommendation will be to renew it for 3 years. So what we did initially is went back through and looked at everything we could find from the 2017 decision, and we support the decision to outsource it for the reasons listed there. Also not listed is that LifeQuest charges us a %, so it's kind of automatically scalable. As volume goes up and down, you know, we don't have to worry about staffing it if we are doing it internally. So we fully support the decision to outsource it. What we've done over the past year, the second memo kind of outlines some changes that Amy and I and the fire department had made since the initial implementation. What had been happening is we had signed on LifeQuest, but we hadn't given them the authority to do certain things, such as issue refund checks or take credit card payments and those kind of things. So we were kind of a painful customer for them. So what we did is we set up a bank account in Watoma, gave them the authorization to do all those things. And we think that's kind of the reason they are proposing a no increase in the rate. So it's streamlined, it's very streamlined now. They're based in Watoma, so they can do all their business, take the money right to the bank, and then once a month, they just transfer it over to our checking account. And we're very hands-off. We feel they're very knowledgeable. Steve Bakos couldn't be here today. He really supports the recommendation. I have the fees as of 12/19 for this year, about $88,000, which likely, depending on how we would staff internally, is still probably a better deal than trying to do internally. Plus, we don't have the interruption in service. So we're all here if you have any questions on the service, how it works, any changes you'd like. Otherwise, we'd recommend authorization to work with LifeQuest to get it renewed.
Are there any motion? Motion by Rebecca and second by Steve.
Thank you. A couple of things here, and I was part of the initial discussions back in 2017 when this occurred, or when this was brought forward, and the previous finance director had brought forth this 1.5 FTE discussion, and at that point, I think we realized that that was actually exaggerated. There may have been 1.5 employee people that were involved, but the actual time spent was 1.0 FTE. So I'm concerned that the misinformation that led to some difficulties with easily passing this the first time are still being moved forward. So I guess I'd really like to know for sure, where is this 1.5 coming from? I'm fairly certain it's 1.0. But a couple of other things that I know were expressed at the time, and I'm not opposed to extending this for 3 years, but I would like to know more information if we're going to be extending with an increase in fee. Now, the reason why I would be willing to go another 3 years is because the fee remains the same. And so, and that sounds great. But I would like to make sure that we are actually doing a true comparison, because again, I think 1.5 is misleading. But anyway, a couple of other things that came up as this was being debated 3 years ago. I know that there was a community member who came up and had grave concerns about the level of customer service that we would be getting. And I think one of the concerns was that oftentimes people in the community could come talk to a person in City Hall, get their questions answered. And how is that going to be handled? I don't know what our customer satisfaction for that is now. There doesn't seem to be any information in that here. I would like to know, are the people who are paying bills, who are trying to contact, who are looking for answers to questions, are they getting the responses, timely, professional responses that they would expect to get if it was in-house? And then the other question I would have is, we talk about 1.5, 1.0, whatever it is, FTE, and we talk about being scalable, meaning that the more that they're asked to bill out based on a percentage, the more money they're going to be making. I guess what I'd like to know is what is their actual time investment? Are they putting in 20 hours a week to do this for us? Are they putting in 80 hours a week? I mean, what is the pay that we're actually giving them if we were to look at it more in an hourly scenario? Because again, that would give us a better, more comparison. I think there's some good reasons. The concept of staff leaving and not losing knowledge. Those are some great reasons to continue. Like I said, I'm not opposed right now because of the lack of increase. But I think before we do this again in 3 years, I'd like to have some of those other vetted.
Sure. So are you asking for a response to those? I mean, we can try to address those.
I don't need it now.
Okay.
But when this comes back up in 3 years,
sure.
Those are the things I'd like to make sure that are addressed.
Absolutely.
I think despite the fact that you're not asking for it now, it might be good to address a couple of these things. And I'd like to take one, maybe then hand it off to you, Ron. Sometimes you say, is no news really good news? And you can argue that. But initially, I know that there was some concern about the fact that they'd be calling some number in Watoma and they couldn't come down and talk to somebody in person. And I think there were some bugs initially. I'm not hearing any real complaints in more recent times. And from your face, Scott, you're not hearing that either?
No, as far as people coming in to pay bills, ask questions, once in a while, we do get people in to ask a question on it, but it's real short and to the point. We basically put them on the phone with LifeQuest right away, and we work through it all. So they're few and far between. When we first started, we were getting more and more coming in, and it wasn't, a mad rush to the door by any means. Now, I can't tell you the last time I had someone come in the station. The customer satisfaction, we can certainly ask them. I don't know if they have feedback cards. I assume that they do, and I can certainly touch base with LifeQuest because that is good information to know. Mm-hmm. It really is, but we've been very pleased with LifeQuest. They do not only ambulance billing for us, but they also do training. They do our data and our statistics. We can get real-time data if we need it in a relatively short period of time. When a call is completed on our computer system, they automatically get it. It can be processed right away. It's not like it has to wait until the next day when the batch gets over there. It's real-time processing, which helps in recouping the costs.
Sure. I'm sorry. That might be a good idea, though, to run by them the idea of could they do some type of customer service focus where you could, like you said, fill out a card or give a numerical score to your satisfaction.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was going to say, on the FTE part of it, I guess I'm basing it on all the information that was presented to the council. I don't have a way of backtracking that and telling if that was correct or not correct at this time. And likewise with the LifeQuest, how many hours are they spending on that? I don't know that you would ever get a good answer on that because it's a large billing center where they have dozens, if not hundreds of clients. I don't think they would be able to even provide us with how much effort our account takes. So I think those are, so I look at it from the other end, what's the cost of the service, the level of service they're providing, and could we do it for an equivalent amount in-house, even without knowing what the FTE is? I think it'd be extremely difficult. That's just my opinion.
And again, the information that was provided to the council started out provided to the finance budget personnel most of the decisions were made, and I think I ruffled some feathers and was reassigned to a different committee. And so I wasn't a part of those final discussions, but I know that when those first came out, a dollar amount was thrown in front of us. It was explained that that was 1.5 FTE. I questioned, and it was told to me, and I probably could find the minutes, that indeed it really was only 1.0 FTE. So again, I think that there was some discrepancy in that, and I was bothered by the fact that I seemed to be being misled, go one direction by being given false information, whether intentionally or otherwise. And so I just want to make sure that we really are looking apples to apples, or the true information of what was happening at the end of 16, beginning of 17 when that occurred.
Well, I was gonna say, just, as far as the 1.5 to 1 FTE, that is out of my wheelhouse because that was a finance thing, but
Yeah.
I will say the one thing about going with a company versus in-house is we have certified coders. So Medicare, Medicaid, the private insurance, those are really complex. Medicare only pays X number of their approved rate, and the individuals at LifeQuest attend coding training routinely. I mean, we've been down there for tours, and we've seen their training facility where they have coders come in and they go through all this. So they truly are getting the most that they can for us, and they work with our members on documentation and making sure that everything is the best that it can be for reimbursement.
And again, on the discussion of the coding, because I know that was a hot topic back 3 years ago. It was my understanding, I don't know that it's necessarily changed, but it was my understanding that it didn't require coders.
Right.
And it also was my understanding that we could have, through very similar means that another medical establishment within the city does, in terms of getting certified coders or staff that are here becoming certified coders for a fairly inexpensive rate. Again, maybe not the continued staff development. Again, there's maybe some benefits from that way if we do want to make sure that we have certified coders, which again is an optional thing, and it's going to cost money.
Right.
But again, I just want to make sure that we're looking at real, true, not misleading information as we're making decisions. I feel like recently there's been a few things that have come up with some manipulation of information that I want to make sure it's not happening, that everything is crystal clear, that we're making decisions based on truth.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. An ambulance billing, the coding related to that is totally different. It's more complex. But I do know there are other departments that they were doing in-house billing. They have now switched to some outsourcing just because of costs and complexities.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the contract renewal for LifeQuest for ambulance billing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7, a review, compare tax bills from recent years, presented by Ron Allman, Finance Director.
Thank you, and this is purely informational. So we've got 4 of, to me, kind of the big items that we want to present informationally every year. So we've got the TID information, the debt information, fund balance information, and then this is actually just the makeup of the tax bill for Wood County. So I don't have a ton of analysis here. It's just more of a report out of what exactly it is. So you have information when you get questions from residents of what changed. So what it does is it breaks down the mill rate into the various components. So you can see everyone's piece of the pie and their increase over the prior year. You can also see that the school levy tax credit declined, which essentially increased our mill rate, and behind the scenes too. The calculation is there. So again, this is just will be one of the 4 big report outs that we'll do each year. Make it available to you and answer any questions you have.
Anyone have any questions for Ron?
I know one of the things that was talked about in the news was the significant increase in lottery purchases and how that is potentially affecting in a positive fashion the amount people are paying in taxes. I didn't see any reference to the lottery credit in here. Are you just not touching on that? I think there was an increase in the lottery credit, the average resident's bill.
Yeah, I'd have to dig down into another level of detail.
Okay.
This is the form that we provide to the county. I can definitely
I was just
dig into that
curious.
a little bit more. Yeah, I'd be curious.
Because I know that in the last couple of years, as I would look at my own personal tax bill and we had voted for an increase, I actually looked and saw it was a decrease because, there was various credits that were coming in, were offsetting that. But obviously this year we saw an increase because it was a more significant voted increase. But I was just curious.
We can follow up on that. So again, just informational. So the timing of these will be, the TID item will be good after the audit's done and we can reforecast. Debt is a good thing to talk about after the September payments because there's nothing going on until March. Fund balance is a good one to look at after the audit, and these rates are good to look at the beginning of the year. So we'll kind of put it on that schedule from now on going forward.
Anyone else have any questions for Ron on this? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 8. Receive general finance update. Hey, Ron.
Okay, so this is just, during the weeks, Steve and I just kind of accumulate a list of items to provide for updates. So again, information only available for questions. So Ayers has completed the 5-year financial plan, the first draft. So they'll be scheduled to come to the council on February 11th. And I'll get that out to you all within the week to give you some time to look through it and kind of prep some questions. We've closed on the Yellowstone property, so that's done. Now we're just working on the logistics, keys and those kind of things, but we have taken possession of that. We're also working on the Baltus property closing. Should wrap up by the end of January, more likely towards the middle of the month, and we'll have that completed. For the 2019 audit, it's the last one under contract with Schenck, now Clifton Larson Allen. So after that audit, as soon as that's done, we'll look to either bring forward a recommendation to extend or to RFP. And just a reminder that too, if you recall, we switched from the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, to audited financial statements. But for all of you and for residents too, we still will push out and continue to push out all the supplemental information that was what we thought kind of the key items of the CAFR for residents. Update, so we're having our state required TID audits on 4, 7, and 9. So we're just in the documentation phase of that. So we've filled all our initial documentation requests. We'll continue to work through it. So we don't have any feedback at this point, but it's taking a little bit longer than expected. And I think they're just going to try to time it more with our other audit procedures and roll it in there. Not that there's anything wrong. We're just filling documents and just the timing has slipped a little bit on that. And last, but TID 7, as you know, the expenditure period ended in 2019. And then our only outstanding item on that TID is that we have a restricted cash of $10,000 holding for a incentive payment to IMS that the council had extended the deadline to June 2020. So that's our updates. If you have any questions or follow-ups.
Any questions for Ron on that? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 9, suggested items for future agendas. Any suggested items? Seeing none, we'll adjourn.